The relationship between Russia and America is complex and fraught with tension. This tension has been a defining feature of international relations for decades, shaping policies and alliances across the globe. This uneasy dynamic isn't new. It has deep historical roots that stretch back over a century, influencing the geopolitical landscape in profound ways. It's rooted in a century of mistrust, ideological battles, and power struggles. The seeds of this mistrust were sown long before the Cold War, during a time of great upheaval and change. The Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 marked a turning point. It was a moment that would forever alter the course of Russian history and its relations with the West. It created a communist state in the heart of what was once Tsarist Russia. This new political reality was met with a mixture of fear and fascination in the West. This sparked fear and suspicion in the West. The rise of communism was seen as a direct threat to the capitalist democracies of Europe and America. The Cold War solidified this divide. It was a period marked by intense rivalry, propaganda, and the ever-present threat of nuclear war. For decades, the United States and the Soviet Union were locked in an ideological struggle. This struggle manifested in various forms, from military parades showcasing power to tense standoffs like the Cuban Missile Crisis. They engaged in proxy wars, espionage, and a terrifying nuclear arms race. Each side sought to outmaneuver the other, leading to a global atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 offered a glimmer of hope. It symbolized the end of an era and the possibility of a new beginning. Many believed it could be a new era of cooperation. However, old suspicions lingered. The scars of the past were not easily healed, and new challenges soon emerged. The expansion of NATO towards Russia's borders raised alarms in Moscow. This move was perceived as a direct threat to Russian security and sovereignty. Vladimir Putin's rise to power in 1999 ushered in a new era of authoritarianism. His leadership style and policies further complicated relations with the West. This further strained relations with the West. The international community watched closely as tensions escalated, wondering what the future would hold. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the ongoing war in Ukraine have brought tensions to a boiling point. These events have reignited old fears and created new flashpoints for conflict. The historical baggage of the past century continues to weigh heavily on the present. Each new conflict is viewed through the lens of past animosities and unresolved issues. Mistrust runs deep, making it difficult to find common ground. Diplomatic efforts are often hampered by a lack of trust and mutual suspicion. The world watches with bated breath, wondering if these two superpowers can escape the shadow of history. The stakes are high, and the outcome remains uncertain. At the heart of the Russia-America rift lies a fundamental clash of values, a deep-seated divide that has only grown more pronounced over the years. The United States, despite its flaws and ongoing struggles, holds itself up as a beacon of democracy, a model for other nations to follow. It values individual freedoms, free and fair elections, and the rule of law, principles that are enshrined in its constitution and celebrated in its culture. Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, has taken a sharp turn towards authoritarianism, a path that diverges significantly from democratic ideals. Putin has consolidated power, stifled dissent, and cracked down on independent media, creating an environment where opposition voices are rarely heard. Political opponents face intimidation, imprisonment, or worse, as the state seeks to maintain its grip on power. Elections are tightly controlled, with little tolerance for genuine opposition, ensuring that the ruling party remains unchallenged. This stark contrast in governance creates a gulf between the two nations, a divide that is difficult to bridge. The United States frequently criticizes Russia's human rights record and democratic backsliding, highlighting issues such as political repression and lack of press freedom. Russia, in turn, accuses the United States of hypocrisy, pointing to its own history of foreign interventions, domestic inequality, and instances where it has fallen short of its democratic ideals. This clash of ideologies makes it difficult to find common ground on issues ranging from human rights to international law, complicating diplomatic efforts. The divide between democracy and autocracy is not just a philosophical debate. It has tangible, real-world consequences. It impacts everything from the lives of ordinary citizens, who experience the effects of their government's policies, to the stability of the international order, influencing global peace and security. Beyond politics, the economies of Russia and the United States stand in stark contrast. The United States champions free market capitalism. It emphasizes private enterprise, competition, and minimal government intervention. Russia's economy, though formally market-oriented, remains heavily state-controlled. Key sectors like energy, defense, and banking are dominated by state-owned enterprises. Corruption is rampant, and cronyism often trumps meritocracy. This creates an uneven playing field that disadvantages both Russian and foreign businesses. The United States has repeatedly criticized Russia's economic practices. Sanctions imposed due to Russia's actions in Ukraine have further strained economic ties. Russia, in turn, accuses the United States of using economic leverage to advance its geopolitical interests. This clash of economic models has global implications. It influences trade agreements, investment flows, and the overall stability of the international financial system. The competition between these two economic giants will continue to shape the global economic landscape for years to come. The chasm between Russia and the United States extends beyond the political and economic realms. It is a divide that permeates the very essence of their cultural and social structures. It cuts deep into the very fabric of their societies, shaping how their citizens access information and experience the world. In the United States, the flow of information is largely unrestricted, allowing for a multitude of voices and perspectives. The United States prides itself on the First Amendment, guaranteeing freedom of speech and of the press. This foundational principle supports a vibrant media landscape where diverse opinions can flourish. While not without its flaws, the American media landscape is diverse, with a wide range of viewpoints represented. News organizations operate with a degree of independence, fostering a culture of investigative journalism and public accountability. Russia, under Putin, has tightened its grip on information. The state exerts significant control over media outlets, curbing dissent and promoting a singular narrative. Independent media outlets face harassment, closure, and even physical threats. Journalists who seek to report the truth often find themselves targeted by the state. Journalists who dare to criticize the government risk their livelihoods and their lives. The environment for free press in Russia is perilous, with many reporters facing intimidation and violence. The internet, once hailed as a tool for democratization, is now heavily censored in Russia. The government employs sophisticated techniques to monitor and restrict online activity. Access to independent news websites is restricted, and social media platforms are closely monitored. This digital surveillance stifles free expression and limits the public's access to unbiased information. This iron curtain of information creates a parallel reality for many Russians. State-controlled media disseminates a version of events that often diverges sharply from the truth. They are fed a steady diet of state-sponsored propaganda that paints the West as a hostile and decadent force. This narrative fosters a sense of isolation and antagonism. This information warfare has real-world consequences, fueling mistrust, prejudice, and conflict. The manipulation of information deepens divisions and hinders the possibility of reconciliation. It also makes it increasingly difficult for citizens of both countries to engage in meaningful dialogue and understanding. Bridging this divide requires a commitment to truth and open communication, fostering a global community where diverse perspectives are respected